Okay, it is now 5:30. I'm calling to, um, we're beginning the meeting, the Board of Directors Trophy Club Mud One, special meeting. First item, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the board on any matter, whether or not it's posted on the agenda. The board is not permitted to take action on or discuss any presentations made to the board at this time concerning an item not listed on the agenda. The board will hear presentations on specific agenda items prior to the board addressing those items. You may speak up to 3 minutes or the time limit determined by the president or presiding officer. Are there any citizen comments?
No.
Okay. In attendance, we have Vice President Rose, Secretary Treasurer Flynn, Director Castaway. Director Chapman is not here. Our first item in regular session is consider and take appropriate action regarding approval of SCADA modification wiring for new pump panel for DHS Modification, Inc. for Lift Station 2 project in the amount of $2,600. Staff, would you like to offer some explanation?
Yeah, let me just provide a brief narrative around how this occurred. Back in March, we had a underground cable fail to lift station, sewage lift station number 2, which caused a failure of the circuit breaking fuses in the control panel. When those fuses were replaced, the transformer from Encore was blown and resulted in some damage to the lift station electrical control panels. There was an emergency, a temporary connection put in place, and since that time, the lift station has been working. However, the staff went out and obtained 3 quotes for the replacement of the electronics and electronic control panels at the lift station. The low bid, well, let me first say that what we did not request quotes on was the cost of programming the lift station output data into our alarm system. So within a program called Win 911, any alarm that happens at any lift station in our system comes in through actually our water SCADA system, supervisory control and data acquisition, and the alarm is relayed to the operator on call. We don't allow just anybody to make programming changes to our SCADA system, and traditionally that has been handled through the water SCADA system. So we asked for quotes on what it took to replace the electrical panels, the electrical wires, do all the work associated with the lift station itself, knowing that we would have to come back with any further quote from our SCADA system programmer, who is DHS Automation. 3 quotes were obtained, and the low quote on the electrical subsystems at the lift station site was from DHS Automation. Actually, they do electrical work as well. However, when they came back with the cost of programming the SCADA system, it runs afoul of our existing procurement policy under Section 7G, which says the general manager may not break down any proposed expenditure into components for the purposes of avoiding limitations on his or her expenditure authority. That expenditure authority is $25,000. The low quote for the electrical system modifications was $24,900 and change. I think we've provided that previously. That said, the additional $2,600 to program the quote into the SCADA system is the reason why I dragged you all in here tonight, and I'm asking for your approval to expend that in excess of my procurement authority.
You have a comment, Director, Vice President Rose?
I have a quick question on the lift station project. Have we dug that line up out of the ground yet to see what was the issue with it?
I believe we have, but it was done in a different alignment. So the question is, do we have pictures? And you had asked for a root cause failure analysis. I specifically requested that, but I do not have it in my possession yet.
Okay.
So it's my intent to provide that for you, whether we just abandon in place the old cable
Okay,
Or because, ultimately, we have a temporary above the lift station, it's just hanging out in the air, basically. Once we have to call Encore to come out, de-breakerize it at the pole, then we switch everything over to the new panel, then they reconnect it. Then we can really go back in and dig up that other cable, although we probably could have done it now. They just haven't, it's not a picture that I have in my possession. We firmly believe, based on where it was attached, it was this pole that's leaning a good 2 feet at the top, and that in the wind it moves, and that over time the wind just created a fault in that subterraneous, I guess it's not submarine, but subterraneous cable.
environment.
And that's what caused the short circuit that caused the fuses to fail. And then once the fuses were replaced, caused the transformer to blow up. I will say, in addition to that, the new panel that's been installed provides for connection by emergency backup generation system. So we can just
Okay.
bring one out on a trailer, plug it in, and avoid the cost of transporting sewage truckload by truckload back to the wastewater plant. It's my intent to get photos of that root cause analysis. I believe, like you do, Director Rose, that we ought to be able to say, why did this fail? And do we have similar issues in our other lift stations? I'm totally on board with you on that front, and I will be able to answer that question. I just can't do so tonight.
Okay, fine.
So Carmen, just to be clear, the whole project is what, 27.5 roughly? 24.9 of which is just under the limit, your $25,000 limit, and then the $2,600 is really what we're talking about tonight.
Yes, sir. So when the quotes came in, the construction of these electrical panels required something between 5 and 7 weeks of lead time for the purchase. So I brought it up with our attorney. We talked about it. So look, he's been involved with rewriting our procurement policy, which will actually be back in front of you in a week or so. This provision doesn't really change substantially. It's a limitation that you've placed on my procurement ability. It's hard to claim that this is an emergency because we had a temporary fix that got it beyond the emergency limit. But that if we characterized it, and again, we put it out for 3 different quotes, we didn't know who was going to get the base work, but we knew that DHS Automation would do the programming work on the SCADA. It just so happened that they also came in with the low quote. I still would have had to bring it back if it was a different contractor because it exceeded my $25,000 authority. But in fact, Tony said we just characterize it like phase 1 and phase 2 of the same project. It doesn't fall under the emergency provision because it's still working. I mean, it was temporary, but it was working. And when phase 2 comes back, you have to approve it. The contractor doing this is having a medical procedure in the near term, and they were anxious to get this done in advance of our next board meeting. So we didn't want to have all the panel switched over, but not programmed into the alarm system for a couple weeks while we waited for a regular board meeting. And that's really kind of the root cause of dragging you guys in here on a stormy night. So,
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I move to approve the contract with DHS Automation Incorporated for Lift Station 2 project, SCADA modifications and wiring to new pump panel in an amount not to exceed $2,600.
We have a motion by Vice President Rose to approve the project in the amount of not to exceed $2,600 to be performed by DHS Automation for Lift Station 2 for SCADA modifications. Do I have a second?
A second.
It's seconded by Director Castaway. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor indicate by raising your hand. Motion passes unanimously. At this point, I entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been seconded, which we don't need.
All in
Yes.
favor?
All in favor? Can we
Me.
vote on it?
Yeah.
The motion is now adjourned at 5:40 PM.
Just giving her my yoga word.